JJ the CPA here. Hope you're doing well. I want to do a quick follow-up. Couple of things. This morning, the SBA came out and indicated that 8-week period for the PPP starts when the funds are received. The law stated when it was approved. This morning, the SBA said the 60 days is when you receive it. That's when the beginning of that occurs. On the employee retention credit, it is effective for March 13th and after. You cannot take the credit during the 8-week period that you're using PPP money because you're using the government's money. So before and after that 8-week period, you are able to take advantage of this credit. Take note, in Oklahoma, the Oklahoma governor indicated on Monday the 16th that we were in a state of emergency, and that is enough to qualify. The credits related to if somebody's sick, potentially sick, or taking care of somebody sick, or home because their kid is under 18, those are for the time that was paid April 1st and after. This employee retention credit has nothing to do with that one. This is just simply your business was closed, partially closed, there were people home because of what's just going on here. Okay, long story short is this: on the 13th or after, if someone was at home and you were still paying them, you're going to get the credit. That simple. And then after the 8-week period, if we're still in this situation, then you're going to continue to get the credit. It's an either or. So the or part is, it's very possible that a number of us will have less revenue in the months even after everything is back to normal. And so for that period of time, if it is less than 50% gross as compared to the prior year, that same period, then during that period of the drop, then you would be able to have a qualification of the credit, which doesn't require anybody to be home. As it relates to that part, what would be better is we're going to probably get a little bit more explanation. I know the IRS has some guidance on that, but here's the reality of it. I think every client that has employees is getting the PPP. So until we get near the 8-week period here, in terms of the 50% and how does that qualify and all that good stuff, we need to just table that until we can get to that appropriately versus us trying to figure out every little detail of that, because there's going to be more to come. It won't be obviously as simple as what's on the IRS website with a couple of examples. So right now, what we're going to be able to do is file a 7200 for first quarter. So for wages between March 13th through March 31st, what was the wages paid for people that were home? If you're under 50 employees, they can be home working. So what did you pay them? Times 50%, that's your tax credit. We put it on 7200, we fax it in, and you get the credit. That does last through 12/31/20. So let's just be clear. You've got a window before you get PPP monies. You have an 8-week window where you have PPP monies. And then after that 8-week period through 12/31/20, if we're still in crisis, we're there. If your if your gross is down, we're there in terms of qualifying for the credit. Did want to just mention, had a question or two on when you receive the PPP money, should you set it up in a separate account? There's no real reason to do that, given that my clients are good at tracking their expenses. So I'll have other information coming out next week on how we go about that. But it'd be easier we can just track it right on QuickBooks, and I'm going to have kind of a good old-fashioned way to track these, because 100% of us will have to present all of the information to the bank. So I don't see that you need to set up a separate bank account. If you have a savings account and you'd like to put it in there, but it doesn't do anything related to improving your chances of forgiveness. And then I did want to let you all know on the EIDL, if you have a business and you don't have employees in it, and it doesn't matter if you're paying independent contractors because it has no relevance for paying, and it is risking economic loss. An example would be an unrelated company, so you own real estate. There's economic risk that it's not going to collect rent. you would then qualify. So the EIDL is at sba.gov. You can go and get that. Follow at the strip, the top, COVID-19. Go through, fill out the application. Very straightforward. It's just going to ask for the owner's information, address, a couple other simple things. It will want to know what your gross income is. Just guess at it if you don't, or estimate it, or whatever you have available. Doesn't need to be per the tax return. And they're not comparing it to one thing. Basically, they're just what is your gross? Okay, so you just don't overthink it. I've had a few that they get that far and then they stop the application process because they don't have that number. So bottom line is, just because you don't have your tax return done, you should have an idea of what your gross is. Worst case scenario, peel out your bank statements. What did you collect in 19? There you go. It does ask for cost of goods sold. For most of my clients, we won't have that. Dentist, it would be though your dental supplies and your lab fees. But again, you don't need to. There's no need for conciseness here, and that sounds weird, but they're just looking for like the number, and then when you put the number of employees, they're going to be 0. Okay, because what you're applying for right now is if you don't have employees. If you're going to apply for the EIDL, it would be after you've run out of PPP money, okay, or 8 weeks, okay? You got to get past that. And if you're going to go for the EIDL, then it would come into play, okay, you do have employees. How many do you have? You do have cost of goods sold. That'd be direct cost. So I don't mean to confuse the matter. It's just that right now, if you have a business that doesn't have employees, then get the EIDL. If you have employees, when you're past your 8 weeks and the PPP money has been exhausted, you can get an EIDL for that business, and then you would put your sales and your cost of goods sold and your employees into that. Hopefully that didn't make it now clear as mud. All right, that's what I've got, and I will have a worksheet in the email that I sent you, a real simple spreadsheet, and there's also a link in this video to how to track the information related to the credit. And in fact, I have this up. So I created this. It'll be on the internet, but this has just really been put together for you, my clients. But on the employee retention, you'll see what we're trying to figure out for right now on the 7,200 is only first quarter. If you have any of this on April 1st or after, it would be better that we run that through payroll, because the way that you would get the credit is it would be a reduction of what you pay in to the IRS for payroll taxes. That'd be April 1 and after. Remember, April 1 and after, that's when those other tax credits for sick leave and expanded family medical leave come into play. So again, all we're focusing in on here, period, for the 7,200 that we're going to file. So we just want to do one step at a time here, just one step. From March 13th to March 31st, put the employee's name. If you are a client of Alliant Payroll, you don't have to fill out A, C, or D. We already have A for you, and then we can just run the math for you if you'd like. So you would just fill out B if you're a client of Alliant. If you're not, then you can just put in, the employee name, their gross, either daily or hourly, depending on how you're paying them, and then put in how many days, and this should just run the math for you. But you take that to come up with your eligible wages, right? So what'd you pay them, how many hours, what'd you pay them for the day, how many days? So you come up with your eligible wages, A times B, and then you take that figure times 50%, and then that's your tax credit. The maximum compensation, in essence, column C, that would count is 10,000, which means that the maximum per employee would be 5,000. That's 5,000 between now, or I should say March 13th and 12/31/20. Two things to qualify: your gross is 50% or less than prior year period, or you're out under the circumstances like we are right now. Business is closed, partial closure. you won't be able to take this credit during the 8-week period that you're using PPP money. If you have questions about after the 8 weeks, it would be better just wait for more clarification. What I've learned is trying to answer questions that are in advance that far, because right now everything's changing like every 48 hours, is just creating more confusion. And so if you have questions about, well, what if it's, I've hit my 8 weeks and I haven't used up my money, well, then you can't do it, but they may change that. So what I'd rather prefer we do, as especially for my clients and then those that are kind of listening in on this, is here's our first priority without trying to figure out 8 to 10 weeks from now and 50% less in gross when we don't know what's to come related to that. What we're focusing in on right now is completing a Form 7200 for first quarter. So all you're doing now, that's it. Employee name. If you're a client of Alliant, fill out B, which is just how many hours did you pay them, right? Or how many days. We can fill out the rest. If not, then fill this out. You're just doing it for first quarter. First quarter has a separate set of rules that we're following, which is you fill it out, you put the 7200, you fax it in, and then the IRS is going to mail you a check. For April 1st and after, what would be great is you can still track, and I've already provided a spreadsheet on my website weeks ago. But all you really need to do is on April 1st or after, if you've had anybody out for these other reasons, sick, caring for, quarantine, it's all the credits that I've been talking about. So if you have any of those circumstances, or we're closed, we have the employee retention, okay, we're going to get that. But what would be great is if we could just focus on first quarter right now, because now all of a sudden we need to get these done, and all you really need to do for April 1st and after is track it, because we're going to have to figure out if we're going to run that through your payroll company once they catch up, or are we going to do a Form 7200? And I'd prefer to make that decision maybe next week. What I'm trying to do right now is do a Form 7200 for first quarter, and we'll worry about the rest when we get to it, because we're getting constant daily changes and updates, and we'll then figure it out then. In fact, what I'm hearing is they're getting ready to sign another $250 billion COVID-19. So it's fluid. Sorry. Here's what I want to do. I want to get you money back now based on first quarter. Get that information filled out. It's not going to be related to 1099. It's only those that you're paying wages to. All right. Hey, thanks for tuning in. For those, well, if you haven't subscribed, whether you're a client or not, I'd love it if you do it. I really appreciate it. And I'll follow up when we know more. Thanks so much.